You know that moment when your entire life shifts on its axis? When everything you thought you knew about your marriage, your wife, your future gets flipped upside down like a pancake on a Sunday morning? Well, mine happened on a Tuesday evening in our kitchen while I was installing a new motion sensor for the Hendersons next door. My name is Greg Harlan, and I've been installing home security systems in the Dallas suburbs for 15 years. It's honest work, pays the bills, keeps my 2 daughters fed and clothed. Not glamorous, but I take pride in protecting people's homes. Ironic, considering I couldn't protect my own marriage. Greg, honey, I've got the most amazing idea for our summer vacation. Alicia called from the kitchen island, her laptop open, that fake bright tone she uses when she's about to drop something on me. Alicia Harlan, well, she kept her maiden name, Morrison, for professional reasons, works in public relations for a mid-sized firm downtown. 36 years old, ambitious as a politician, and lately about as trustworthy as one, too. She's got this way of making every conversation sound like a business presentation. Let me guess, I said, not looking up from my toolkit. Cancun, Hawaii, somewhere with overpriced drinks and terrible Wi-Fi? Actually, I was thinking Lake Tahoe. Remember that cabin rental we looked at last year? The one with the boat dock? I paused, screwdriver in hand. We'd talked about Tahoe exactly once, and she'd shot it down because it wasn't Instagram-worthy enough. Now suddenly it's her brilliant idea? Tahoe sounds expensive, I said, which was code for, our credit cards are already maxed out from her shopping sprees. That's the beautiful part. I talked to some friends, and we could split the cost, make it a group thing. You know, like the old days when we used to hang out with other couples. The old days, right? Back when she actually wanted to spend time with me instead of scrolling through her phone during dinner. Our 12-year-old Molly wandered into the kitchen, earbuds dangling, that perpetual preteen scowl firmly in place. Are we going somewhere boring again? Lake Tahoe, sweetheart. Mountains, lake, hiking trails, Alicia said with forced enthusiasm. Sounds boring, Molly confirmed, grabbing a juice box from the fridge. 8-year-old Jess bounced in behind her sister, all energy and optimism. Will there be fish? Can we go fishing, Daddy? We'll see, Princess, I said, ruffling her hair. At least one person in this family still looked at me like I hung the moon. So who exactly are these friends we're splitting costs with? I asked, though something in my gut already knew I wouldn't like the answer. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Alicia's fingers tapped against her laptop, her nervous tell. Well, Tasha and Rachel are definitely in. You remember them from the Christmas party? I remembered them. Tasha, the Instagram mom who documents every latte and considers gossip a competitive sport. Rachel, the self-proclaimed wine aunt who enables every bad decision Alicia makes and calls it living your truth. And, I prompted, because her tapping hadn't stopped. And, well, Vince might join us, and possibly Paul. The screwdriver slipped in my hand, nearly gouging the cabinet. Vince Taylor, her ex-boyfriend from college. The one who stayed friends with her on social media, liking every photo, commenting with inside jokes I wasn't part of. The realtor with the flashy Lexus and the gym membership he never stops talking about. And Paul Banner, her ex-husband from her first marriage. The tech sales guy who still calls her when he's having relationship problems because apparently that's normal. Let me get this straight, I said slowly, setting down my tools. You want to take a family vacation with your ex-boyfriend and your ex-husband. It's not like that, Greg. They're just friends now. Vince has that real estate connection for cabin rentals, and Paul knows the area really well. It makes practical sense. Practical sense. That's what she called it when she started working late 3 nights a week. Practical sense when she needed a new phone because her old one was too slow for work. Practical sense when she joined that expensive gym where, coincidentally, Vince also worked out. Besides, she continued, her voice taking on that edge it gets when she's defensive, it's not like we can afford to take the girls somewhere nice on our own. There it was, the dig, the reminder that I'm just a security installer while she's climbing the corporate ladder in her power suits and networking events. Dad, are you okay? Jess asked, tugging on my shirt. You look mad. I forced a smile for her. Just thinking, sweetheart. Why don't you and Molly go get ready for bed? After they left, I turned back to Alicia. She was typing on her laptop, probably already planning the trip without waiting for my answer. When exactly were you planning to run this by me? I asked. I'm running it by you now. No, you're telling me. There's a difference. She sighed, the way she does when she thinks I'm being unreasonable. Greg, we never do anything fun anymore. The girls would love it, and it would be good for us to socialize with other adults. Other adults. Like Vince, who sends her LinkedIn messages that somehow always include shirtless photos from his latest hiking trip. Like Paul, who texts her at midnight asking for advice about his dating life. My phone buzzed. Text message. I glanced at it and felt my stomach drop. It was from Doug Martinez, my best friend and former Dallas PD detective who now runs his own private investigation business. The message was short. Call me when you're alone, about Alicia. I looked up at my wife, still typing away, planning a vacation with her ex-lovers like it was the most natural thing in the world. She hadn't even noticed I'd gone silent. You know what? I said finally. Book the trip? She looked up, surprised. Really? Really. Book it for all of us. Make sure you get that cabin with the boat dock. Spare no expense. Her smile was radiant, the first genuine one I'd seen from her in months. Oh, Greg, this is going to be amazing. You'll see. It'll be just like old times. Just like old times. Before I knew what I know now. Before Doug's text message. Before I started paying attention to the little things. The way she hides her phone screen, the new clothes she wears to work, the sudden interest in hiking and fitness. I'm going to call Vince right now and let him know, she said, already reaching for her phone. You do that, I said, gathering up my tools. I've got some calls to make, too. As I headed to the garage, I could hear her voice, bright and excited, talking to Vince about cabin amenities and hiking trails, the same voice that used to get excited about our anniversary dinners back when she still cared about those. I closed the garage door behind me and called Doug. Greg, you got my message? Yeah, what do you have? We need to meet. Tonight, there's stuff you need to see, and I don't want to do this over the phone. How bad is it? Doug was quiet for a long moment. Bad enough that you're going to want to sit down when I show you. The Denny's on Mockingbird? 20 minutes. I hung up and stood there in my garage, surrounded by the tools of my trade, motion sensors, cameras, alarm systems, all the equipment I use to protect other people's homes and families. A fat lot of good it did me, but as I grabbed my keys, a plan was already forming in my head. See, 15 years of installing security systems teaches you a lot about surveillance, about digital footprints, about the ways people think they're being sneaky when they're actually leaving evidence everywhere. And if there's one thing I've learned from all those crime shows Alicia loves to binge-watch, it's that the husband is always the last to know. Well, not this time. The Denny's on Mockingbird Boulevard at 11 p.m. is exactly what you'd expect. Fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look like they're recovering from the flu, coffee that could strip paint, and the kind of privacy that comes from nobody wanting to be there in the first place. Doug was already in a corner booth when I arrived, a manila folder thick with papers sitting next to his untouched coffee. He looked up as I slid into the seat across from him, and I could see the apology in his eyes before he even opened his mouth. How long have you known? I asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4. I wasn't sure at first, and I hoped I was wrong. Doug Martinez had been my best friend since high school. We'd been in each other's weddings, coached Little League together, spent countless weekends working on cars and complaining about our wives. If anyone was going to deliver news like this, I was glad it was him. Show me, I said. He opened the folder. The first photo hit me like a punch to the gut. Alicia and Vince outside some upscale restaurant I couldn't afford, his hand on her lower back, her looking up at him with that smile, the smile that used to be mine. This was last Tuesday, the day she said she was working late on the Morrison account. More photos. Alicia and Vince at a coffee shop, holding hands across the table. Vince's Lexus parked outside our house one afternoon when I was supposedly at work but had come home early with a migraine. Alicia getting into that same Lexus, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. There's more, Doug said quietly. Text message screenshots. My wife and her ex-boyfriend planning their little rendezvous like teenagers. The messages were explicit, creative, detailed descriptions of what they wanted to do to each other, where they wanted to do it, how long it had been since they'd been together. Since when? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Best I can tell, about 6 months, maybe longer. 6 months. Our anniversary had been 7 months ago. The last time we'd been intimate was, I couldn't even remember. She'd been tired or stressed or had an early meeting for weeks. What about Paul? Doug flipped to another section of the folder. That one's more complicated. They're not physical as far as I can tell, but the emotional stuff. He showed me printouts of Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, late-night phone calls. Paul pouring his heart out to my wife about his loneliness, his dating disasters, how he'd never gotten over losing her. And Alicia, eating it up, giving him just enough encouragement to keep him hooked. She's collecting them, I realized. Ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, like trophies. Looks that way. And this vacation idea? I did some digging. The cabin reservation was made 2 weeks ago. Before she ever mentioned it to you. 3 bedrooms, but the booking shows 4 adults and 2 children. 4 adults. Alicia, me, Vince, and Paul. How cozy. There's something else, Doug said. He pulled out his phone and played an audio file. Alicia's voice, crystal clear, talking to someone on the phone. Greg doesn't suspect anything. He's so wrapped up in his little security systems, he doesn't pay attention to anything else. Besides, even if he found out, what's he going to do? Divorce me? He can't afford the lawyer fees. The laughter that followed was like glass in my ears. Who was she talking to? Rachel, her enabler friend. This was recorded 3 days ago. I sat back in the booth, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My wife of 14 years, the mother of my children, was not only cheating on me, but actively mocking me to her friends, planning a vacation where she could parade her ex-lovers in front of me like some kind of sick power play. Greg, Doug said carefully, there's one more thing. I looked at him. The cabin booking? It's not refundable, and according to the credit card records I was able to access, she put it on your joint card, the one that's already near its limit. So she'd maxed out our credit card to pay for a vacation where she could humiliate me in front of her ex-boyfriends. The hits just kept coming. What are you going to do? Doug asked. I stared at the photos spread across the table. My wife's betrayal, documented in living color, her smug confidence that I was too stupid, too weak, too financially trapped to do anything about it. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, I said finally. What do you mean? She wants freedom? She's going to get it. She wants to play games? I'll play along, but by my rules. I gathered up the photos and documents, sliding them back into the folder. Doug, I need you to do something for me, quietly. Name it. I need you to document everything. Every text, every meeting, every lie. I need a paper trail that would make the IRS jealous. Greg, if you're thinking about divorce, I'm thinking about a lot of things. But first, I'm thinking about that vacation. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with possibilities. The house was quiet when I got there, Alicia already asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand, the same phone she'd been using to plan her little affair. I stood in our bedroom doorway, watching her sleep. 14 years of marriage, 2 beautiful daughters, a mortgage, car payments, a life we'd built together. And she was willing to throw it all away for what? A midlife crisis? The thrill of sneaking around? Her phone buzzed with a text message. Even from across the room, I could see Vince's name on the screen. That's when I made my decision. The next morning, Alicia was practically bouncing with excitement as she made coffee and checked her phone. Vince confirmed he can get us the cabin for half price through his real estate connections, she announced, and Paul is so excited about showing the girls the hiking trails. This is going to be perfect. Sounds great, I said, buttering toast for Jess. When do we leave? Friday afternoon. We'll drive up, get settled, have the whole weekend. Actually, I was thinking we should fly. Make it feel more like a real vacation. She paused, coffee mug halfway to her lips. Fly? Greg, that's expensive. You said it yourself. We never do anything fun anymore. Let's do this right. First-class tickets, the works. Her eyes lit up. I could practically see her imagining the Instagram photos. Really? Really. In fact, why don't you let me handle all the travel arrangements? I'll book everything today. Oh my God, yes. Thank you, honey. This is going to be amazing. She kissed my cheek, and for a moment, I almost felt guilty about what I was planning. Almost. After she left for work, I got to business. First, I called the airline and booked exactly 1 ticket to Las Vegas. One way, in my name only. Then I called my lawyer. Margaret Lanier had handled our house purchase and will preparation, so she knew our financial situation intimately. She was also, according to Doug, the best divorce attorney in Dallas. Greg, this is unexpected. What can I do for you? I need to see you today. It's urgent. How urgent? My wife is planning to take a vacation with her ex-boyfriend and ex-husband, and she thinks I'm too stupid to know she's cheating. There was a pause. I'll clear my afternoon schedule. Margaret's office was in one of those glass towers downtown, the kind of place that charges by the minute just for breathing their air, but she was worth every penny. Show me what you have, she said after I'd explained the situation. I spread Doug's documentation across her conference table. Photos, text messages, credit card statements, phone records. 14 years of marriage reduced to evidence in a manila folder. Margaret reviewed everything with the cold efficiency of a surgeon. This is good. Very good. Your wife has been remarkably careless. What are my options? Several. But first, we need to protect your assets. Joint accounts, credit cards, the house. She could clean you out if she gets spooked. How long do I have? If she's planning to leave Friday, we need to move today. I'll file the preliminary paperwork this afternoon. By tomorrow morning, she'll be locked out of everything except her personal checking account. And the kids? With this evidence, full custody shouldn't be a problem. A mother who abandons her children for a vacation with multiple lovers doesn't look good to family court judges. I signed papers for the next hour. Asset protection, custody filings, restraining order preparation. It felt like I was dismantling my entire life, one legal document at a time. Greg, Margaret said as I prepared to leave. Are you sure about this? Once we set this in motion, there's no going back. I thought about Alicia's laughter on that recording, her casual dismissal of our marriage, her confidence that I was too weak to fight back. I'm sure. Good. Because your wife is about to learn that underestimating people is a very expensive mistake. I drove home with a strange sense of calm. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of something. Alicia thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She had no idea I'd been playing chess all along. Friday morning arrived with the kind of perfect Texas sunshine that makes you believe everything's going to work out. Alicia was up early, humming while she packed her suitcase, occasionally stopping to take selfies in various outfits. I can't decide between the blue sundress or the white one, she said, holding both up for my opinion. What do you think? I looked at her, really looked at her. Maybe for the first time in months. She was beautiful, I had to admit. 36, and could still turn heads. The kind of woman who knew exactly how attractive she was and had never learned to be anything else. The white one, I said. It's more pure. She missed the irony completely, beaming as she folded it into her suitcase. Perfect. Vince always said white was my color. Of course he did. Speaking of which, I said casually, I need to run a few errands before we leave. Last-minute stuff? No problem. We don't need to be at the airport until 3. I kissed her forehead, breathing in her perfume one last time. Have I mentioned lately how much I love you? She looked surprised. That's sweet, honey. I love you too. The thing about lies is that they're easy when you don't have to look the person in the eye afterward. My first stop was the bank. Margaret had filed the paperwork yesterday, and the asset freeze was already in effect. I transferred my paycheck to a new personal account, withdrew enough cash for the next few weeks, and closed our joint credit cards. Then I drove to Molly and Jess's school. Daddy, Jess ran to me when she saw me in the office. Are we leaving for vacation now? Change of plans, Princess. You and Molly are going to spend the weekend with Grandma and Grandpa instead. Molly, sharp as always, frowned. What about Mom? Mom's going on a different kind of trip, I said, which was technically true. My parents live 40 minutes outside Dallas, on 5 acres with horses and a pond. The girls loved it there, and more importantly, it was far away from whatever explosion was about to happen. Greg? My mother pulled me aside while the girls packed their school bags. Is everything all right? It will be, Mom. I just need you to keep the girls for a few days, maybe a week. Don't let Alicia pick them up, no matter what she says. My mother had never particularly liked Alicia, though she'd been polite about it for my sake. Now her eyes narrowed with understanding. What did she do? Nothing that can't be fixed, I said, but the girls don't need to see it get fixed. Yeah, after dropping off my daughters, I drove home to find Alicia pacing the living room with her phone pressed to her ear. What do you mean the card was declined? She asked, her voice sharp with frustration. Try it again. I walked past her, opened a beer from the fridge, and took a slow sip, watching her struggle with the cards. The tension in the room was already thickening. Greg, she called out, her voice rising. Something's wrong with our credit card. The Uber to the airport won't go through? I muttered, taking another sip of beer. That's weird. She tried 3 more cards, her fingers fumbling with each one, growing more agitated as they all declined. Her face was getting that pinched look it always got when things weren't going according to her plan, when the illusion of control started slipping away. Did you pay the bills this month? She demanded, a note of accusation in her voice. I leaned against the kitchen counter, watching her. I paid what needed to be paid. Well, obviously something didn't get paid, she snapped, her voice tightening. Now how are we supposed to get to the airport? I checked my watch, deliberately taking my time. Then, casually, I spoke. Actually, I've got some bad news about that. Her eyes narrowed, not yet catching on to what I was about to say. What kind of bad news? The kind where I canceled your ticket this morning. The silence that followed was almost tangible, hanging between us like a heavy weight. Alicia stared at me, blinking, as if she couldn't process the words I'd just dropped. You what? She asked, her voice a strangled whisper. Canceled your ticket, and Vince's, and Paul's. I paused, savoring the moment. Funny thing about airline tickets. If you book them, you can cancel them. Her face went through several rapid transformations. Shock, confusion, and then a flash of anger. The color drained from her cheeks as the realization hit her. Greg, what the hell is wrong with you? We have a vacation planned. People are expecting us. People like Vince? I asked, my voice flat. The guy you've been sleeping with for 6 months? If I'd slapped her across the face, it wouldn't have left a stronger impact. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked at me like I had just shattered her world into pieces. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally stammered, trying to regain some control. Sure you don't, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I pulled my phone from my pocket and began reading aloud, slow and deliberate. Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Wednesday, 11:23 p.m. Greg's working late tomorrow. Come over after lunch. Should I keep going? Her face lost what little color it had left. I watched the panic begin to spread in her eyes. Greg, I can explain. She stepped toward me, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. Explain? How exactly do you explain this? Explain the fact that you've been lying to me, behind my back, for months? That you're not just cheating on me, but throwing it in my face? Alicia's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, her hands trembling as she tried to grasp for anything she could say that would make it right. But there was nothing. There was no excuse that could undo what she'd done. No clever words that could erase the months of deceit. You think you're going on a vacation? I continued, my voice rising now, the anger I had been holding in finally breaking free. You think you're going to have some carefree trip while I stay here, completely oblivious to what you've been doing? I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. Not happening. Not anymore. You're not getting away with it. I've known about Vince for weeks. I've been letting you play your little games, thinking I was too stupid to figure it out. But I wasn't. I just needed the proof. Her face twisted in a mix of fear and fury. Greg, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Stop! I cut her off, my voice low but firm. I don't want to hear it. I don't want your excuses. I don't want your lies. You made your choices, and now you have to live with them. She stood there, her chest heaving as she tried to find something to say that would undo the damage, but it was too late. The truth was out in the open, and the more she tried to defend herself, the more pathetic she sounded. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of her pleading, I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and turned away from her. Pack your things, Alicia. You're not going anywhere. You're staying here and facing what you've done. The door to the life we once shared had swung wide open, and there was no closing it now. Not for her, not for me. I'm sure you can. You're good at explanations, like how you explained working late 3 nights a week, or how you explained needing a new gym membership. Very creative explanations. She sat down hard on the couch, her suitcase forgotten. How long have you known? Long enough to make some preparations. What kind of preparations? I smiled, and apparently it wasn't a nice smile because she actually flinched. Well, for starters, I've moved our daughters somewhere safe, somewhere you can't use them as leverage. You can't keep my children from me. Watch me. Turns out family court judges don't look kindly on mothers who abandon their kids for affairs with multiple men. She stood up, hands clenched into fists. You son of a... Careful, I interrupted. That's my mother you're talking about, and she never liked you anyway. Alicia's phone rang. She answered it without looking away from me. Vince? No, we're not coming. Greg canceled. What do you mean your card was declined? How is that my fault? I could hear Vince's voice through the phone, getting louder and more agitated. Apparently his day wasn't going any better than hers. I have to go, she said into the phone. Something's very wrong here. After she hung up, she turned back to me with that look she gets when she's trying to be reasonable. The same look she probably uses on difficult clients. Okay, Greg, you're angry, I get it. But let's talk about this like adults. We can work through this. Adults? I laughed. You mean like how you and Vince were working through things in that hotel room last Tuesday? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. You had me followed. I had you investigated. There's a difference. Turns out you're not nearly as sneaky as you think you are. My phone buzzed with a text from Doug. Package delivered. What package? Alicia asked, reading over my shoulder. Oh, that's probably the photos. What photos? The ones being delivered to your office right now. You know, the ones of you and Vince at that restaurant, and the coffee shop, and getting into his car outside our house. Her face went completely white. You didn't. I did? Funny thing about your boss, Mr. Henderson. Very old-fashioned guy. Very big on family values. Probably not going to be thrilled to learn his PR executive is having a very public affair. She grabbed her purse and keys. I have to get to the office. Good luck with that. Your car's been repossessed. What? Turns out when you miss 3 payments, they come take it back. Who knew? She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. We haven't missed any car payments. You haven't. But see, the car was in my name, and I decided I didn't want to make payments on a car my cheating wife uses to drive to her boyfriend's house. The full scope of her situation was starting to dawn on her. No credit cards, no car, no way to get to the airport for a vacation that was already canceled. You can't do this to me, she whispered. Funny thing is, I can. Turns out all those years of you keeping your maiden name and insisting on separate everything means you don't actually own much of anything. The house is in my name. The cars are in my name. Even that fancy laptop you're always typing on? Company property. She sank back onto the couch, finally understanding the trap she'd walked into. What do you want? She asked. I want you to call Vince. Tell him the vacation's off permanently. Tell him you're done sneaking around, done lying, done playing games. And then? And then you pack whatever actually belongs to you and you leave. Today. Greg, please. Think about the girls. Think about our family. I am thinking about them. That's why you're leaving. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Maybe Vince will take you in. Oh, wait, he's probably dealing with his own problems right about now. My phone rang. Margaret Lanier. Greg, the papers have been served. Your wife should be getting a visit from the sheriff's department any minute now. As if on cue, there was a knock at the front door. Official, authoritative. The kind of knock that means your day is about to get much worse. Greg Harlan? The deputy was young, professional, apologetic. I'm looking for Alicia Morrison. That's me, Alicia said weakly. Ma'am, I have some papers for you. She took the envelope with shaking hands. Divorce papers, restraining order, custody documents, the complete dismantling of her life, all neatly typed and legally binding. You have 30 minutes to collect your personal belongings, the deputy continued. After that, you'll need to maintain a distance of at least 500 feet from this property. After he left, Alicia looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before, respect and fear. You planned all this, she said. I learned from the best. You taught me how to plan things behind someone's back. She went upstairs to pack, and I could hear her crying, making phone calls, trying to find someone to rescue her. But Vince's phone was apparently going straight to voicemail, and Paul was dealing with his own financial crisis. When she came back down with 2 suitcases, she looked like a different person, smaller somehow, defeated. This isn't over, she said. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. She called a taxi with what was left of her personal credit card and stood in the doorway for a long moment, looking around the house she'd shared with me for 8 years. I did love you, you know, she said quietly. I know, just not enough. After she left, I sat in my living room, drinking my beer, surrounded by the silence of my empty house. My phone was buzzing constantly, Vince calling, probably trying to figure out what had happened. Rachel and Tasha, no doubt wanting gossip about the drama. But I didn't answer. I had other plans for the evening. I opened my laptop and started typing. A detailed email to Alicia's entire social media network, complete with photos and screenshots. The real story behind her girls' trip to Lake Tahoe, her affair with Vince, her emotional manipulation of Paul, her casual dismissal of our marriage, and her confidence that I was too weak to fight back. The subject line was simple. The truth about Alicia Morrison. I hit send and watched it go out to her Facebook friends, her Instagram followers, her LinkedIn network, 300 people who thought they knew her, about to learn who she really was. My phone rang. Doug. Greg, I just heard from my contact at the sheriff's department. How are you holding up? Better than expected, I said. How's Vince doing? Doug chuckled. Funny you should ask. Turns out someone called his real estate license board with some interesting information about his business practices. Something about using client information for personal gain. He's looking at a suspension, maybe worse. Huh, that's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Almost like someone who understands security systems might have hacked into his client database and found some irregularities. I smiled. I wouldn't know anything about that. Of course not. What's your next move? I looked around my empty house, thinking about my daughters safe at their grandparents' farm, thinking about the wife who had underestimated me for the last time. "I'm going to Vegas," I said. "I hear it's nice this time of year." Vegas was exactly what I needed. 3 days of anonymity, decent food, and the kind of mindless entertainment that helps you forget your life has exploded. But by Tuesday morning, I was ready to come home and face whatever mess was waiting for me. The mess turned out to be spectacular. My phone had 47 missed calls, 23 voicemails, and enough text messages to crash a small server. Alicia, Vince, Paul, Rachel, Tasha, my mother, my boss, and about 15 people I barely knew, all wanting to know what the hell was going on. But the most interesting message was from Margaret Lanier. "Call me immediately. Alicia's hired Bradley Whitman." Bradley Whitman. Even I knew that name. The most expensive divorce attorney in Dallas. The guy who specialized in taking wealthy men to the cleaners. Apparently, Alicia had found herself a champion. "How can she afford Whitman?" I asked Margaret when I called her back. "That's an excellent question. His retainer alone is $50,000. Either she's got money hidden somewhere, or someone's bankrolling her." Someone like Vince, maybe. Or Paul. Or maybe she'd convinced them both to chip in. Either way, it meant she was taking this seriously. "What's our position?" "Strong. Very strong. But Whitman's going to fight dirty. He's already filed motions claiming you've committed financial abuse, kidnapped the children, and violated her privacy rights." "Can he make any of that stick?" "Not with the evidence we have, but he can make it expensive and time-consuming. That's his specialty." I drove home to find a news van parked outside my house. Apparently, someone had tipped off the local media about the home security expert's high-tech revenge story. Great. The reporter, a blonde woman in her 30s with the kind of aggressive smile they teach in journalism school, intercepted me at my front door. "Mr. Harlan, Jennifer Walsh, Channel 8 News. Can you comment on the allegations that you've been stalking your estranged wife?" "No comment," I said, pushing past her. "What about the claims that you've hacked into private computer systems?" I stopped and turned around. "What claims?" "Your wife's attorney says you illegally accessed her personal accounts and those of several other individuals. That's a federal crime, Mr. Harlan." "Interesting." Alicia was playing the victim card, claiming I'd hacked her accounts instead of simply paying attention to what she was doing. Smart move, actually. Made me look like the bad guy instead of the cheated-on husband. "I install security systems for a living," I said calmly. "I protect people's privacy. I don't violate it." "Then how do you explain the intimate photos and messages that were distributed to your wife's colleagues and friends?" I'd explain it by saying my wife was remarkably careless about her privacy settings. But you'd have to ask her about that. I went inside and closed the door, but I could see the reporter through the window, already talking to her camera about the mysterious husband and his campaign of digital harassment. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Greg, it's Paul Banner. We need to talk." Paul, Alicia's ex-husband, the emotional vampire who'd been feeding off her attention for months. "I don't think we do," I said. "Look, I know you're angry, but Alicia's in real trouble. She's staying in some cheap motel, she lost her job, her car's been repossessed. Whatever you did, you've made your point." "Have I?" "She's scared, Greg, really scared. She thinks you're going to destroy her completely." "Huh, that's interesting, because 3 weeks ago she was telling her friends that I was too weak to do anything about her affair." There was a pause. "She told me about that. She's sorry. She was just frustrated. You two had been having problems for a while. Problems she created by sleeping with her ex-boyfriend. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was just physical. Just physical. Like that made it better. Like 14 years of marriage could be dismissed because her affair was just physical. Paul, let me explain something to you. My wife didn't just cheat on me. She planned a vacation where she could humiliate me in front of her lovers. She maxed out our credit cards to pay for it. She told her friends I was too stupid and too weak to fight back. So no, I haven't made my point yet. What do you want from her?" "I want her to understand that actions have consequences. I want her to learn that underestimating people is dangerous. And I want my daughters to grow up knowing that their father isn't a pushover. The girls, Greg, they need their mother. They need a mother who puts them first, not one who abandons them for affairs with multiple men." I hung up and immediately called my parents. "How are the girls?" I asked my mother. "They're fine, but they're asking questions. Molly saw something on social media about you and Alicia. She's smart, Greg. She knows something's wrong." "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that sometimes adults make mistakes and other adults have to fix them." "And Jess?" "Jess is 8. She's more worried about whether you remembered to feed her goldfish. At least one of my daughters had her priorities straight. That evening, I was installing a new security system for the Hendersons. Ironically, they'd hired me after seeing the news story, figuring anyone who could outmaneuver his cheating wife was probably good at his job, when my phone rang. Margaret Lanier again. Greg, we have a problem. Alicia's trying to pick up the girls from school. What? Your mother called the school when Molly didn't come home on the bus. Apparently Alicia showed up with some story about a family emergency. The school wouldn't release them without your permission, but she's threatening to call the police.
I was in my truck and driving toward the school before she finished talking. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of, Alicia using the girls as weapons in our war. I found her in the principal's office, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her makeup was smudged, and she was wearing the same clothes she'd had on when she left the house. Greg, she stood up when she saw me. Thank God. Tell them it's okay. Tell them I can take the girls home. No. What? I said no. The girls are staying with my parents until this is resolved. You can't keep my children from me. Watch me.
The principal, Mrs. Davidson, looked uncomfortable.
Mr.
Harlan, perhaps we could work out some kind of compromise. There's no compromise, I said. Mrs. Morrison is under a restraining order. She's not supposed to be within 500 feet of me or my property. That includes my children's school. Alicia's face crumpled. Greg, please. I haven't seen them in 5 days. I just want to hug my babies. For a moment, looking at her broken expression, I almost gave in. Almost. Then I remembered the audio recording Doug had played me. Her laughter when she talked about how stupid I was. You should have thought about that before you decided our marriage wasn't worth your fidelity. Mrs. Morrison, Mrs. Davidson said gently, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you'd like to arrange visitation with your children, you'll need to work that out through the courts. After Alicia left, I collected Molly and Jess from the after-school program. Molly was quiet during the drive to my parents' house, but Jess chattered about her day as if nothing had changed. Daddy, why was Mommy crying? Jess asked as I tucked her into bed. Sometimes grown-ups get sad when things don't go the way they planned, I said. Is she sad because you're not living together anymore? Kids, they see everything, understand more than you think they do. Something like that, Princess. Will she be happy again? I looked down at my youngest daughter, her big eyes full of concern for the mother who'd been willing to abandon her for a weekend with her lovers. I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. But honestly, I wasn't sure Alicia would ever be happy again, and I was starting to realize that might have been the point all along. The next morning brought a new development. Doug called while I was having coffee with my father. Turn on Channel 8, he said. You're going to want to see this. The story was titled, Local Woman Claims High-Tech Harassment by Estranged Husband. Jennifer Walsh, the reporter who'd ambushed me yesterday, was interviewing Alicia outside what looked like a legal aid office. Mrs. Morrison, you claim your husband has been systematically destroying your life using his expertise in security systems. Can you elaborate? Alicia looked directly into the camera, and I had to admit she was good. Vulnerable but strong, hurt but not broken. The perfect victim. Greg has access to technology most people don't understand, she said. He's used that access to invade my privacy, destroy my relationships, and isolate me from my children. All because our marriage was having problems. What kind of problems? We'd grown apart. I made some mistakes, I'll admit that. But what he's done in response is completely disproportionate. He's trying to destroy me completely. Have you been in contact with law enforcement? Oh, my attorney is exploring all options. What Greg has done, some of it might be legal, but it's not right. It's not what you do to someone you once loved. The interview continued for another few minutes, with Alicia painting herself as the victim of a vindictive husband with too much technical knowledge and too little conscience. She's good, my father said when it was over. She's always been good at playing the victim, I replied. It's how she got through her first divorce. My phone was already ringing. Margaret Lanier. Did you see it? I saw it. This is actually good for us. She's admitted to making mistakes, which is lawyer speak for adultery. And her claim that you've hacked into systems, we can disprove that. How? Because everything you used came from her own careless social media posts and Doug's legitimate surveillance. She's essentially admitting to adultery on television while accusing you of crimes you didn't commit. So, what's our next move? We go on the offensive. I'm scheduling a press conference for this afternoon. Time to tell your side of the story. The press conference was held in Margaret's office with about a dozen reporters and 3 local TV stations represented. I'd never been comfortable in front of cameras, but I'd had enough of being painted as the villain in my own story. "Ladies and gentlemen," Margaret began, "my client, Greg Harlan, has been the victim of a vicious smear campaign by his estranged wife and her attorney. Today, we're going to set the record straight." She laid out the timeline methodically. Alicia's affair with Vince Taylor, her emotional manipulation of Paul Banner, her plan to use marital funds for a vacation with her lovers, her casual dismissal of our marriage, and her confidence that I was too weak to fight back. "Mr. Harlan didn't hack into anyone's computer systems," Margaret continued. "He didn't violate anyone's privacy. He simply paid attention to what his wife was doing in public, on social media, and in their shared home. Everything he discovered, she made available through her own careless behavior." Then it was my turn. 14 years ago, I married a woman I thought I knew," I said, looking directly into the cameras. "We built a life together, had 2 beautiful daughters, created what I thought was a strong family. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that the woman I'd been married to for 14 years was planning to humiliate me in front of her lovers, using our children's college fund to pay for the privilege. I pulled out my phone and played the audio recording Doug had captured. Alicia's voice, clear as day, mocking me to her friends. This is what my wife really thinks of me. This is how she talks about our marriage when she thinks I can't hear. So yes, I protected my assets. Yes, I protected my children. And yes, I made sure her friends and colleagues knew who she really was, because sometimes the only way to deal with a bully is to stand up to them." The questions came fast and sharp, but I was ready for them. "Mr. Harlan, don't you think your response was excessive?" "I think abandoning your children for a weekend with your ex-lovers is excessive. I think maxing out your family's credit cards to pay for that weekend is excessive. I think mocking your husband to your friends while you're planning to humiliate him is excessive. My response was proportionate." "What about your children? How are they handling this?" "My children are safe, loved, and protected. They're staying with their grandparents while their mother and I work through our legal issues. They don't need to be exposed to this drama." "Do you have any regrets about how you've handled this situation?" I thought about that for a moment. Did I regret destroying Alicia's life? Did I regret the public humiliation, the job loss, the financial ruin? "I regret that it was necessary," I said finally. "I regret that my wife chose to handle our marital problems by having an affair instead of talking to me. I regret that my daughters have to grow up in a broken home, but do I regret protecting my family and standing up for myself? No, I don't regret that at all." After the press conference, Margaret walked me to my truck. "How do you think it went?" I asked. "Better than I hoped. You came across as reasonable, hurt, but not vindictive. She came across as manipulative and careless. The audio recording was particularly effective." I nodded, taking in the report. "What happens now?" "Now we wait. Alicia's attorney will probably try to spin this, but the damage is done. Public opinion matters in custody cases, and right now, public opinion is on your side." As I drove home, I replayed the press conference in my mind. My words had been calculated, carefully measured, trying to show that I was the reasonable party, the one seeking justice, not revenge. I had claimed my response was proportionate, that sometimes you have to stand up to bullies. It had sounded good at the time, like a defense of principle. But the truth was, I wasn't entirely sure anymore. Deep down, a nagging doubt gnawed at me. Had I crossed a line? Had I become the kind of person who destroyed lives for the sake of revenge, instead of justice? I thought about Alicia's laugh in that recording. How light-hearted, almost mocking it had been. How it had chilled me to the bone, made me question everything she had said in court, everything she'd done to our family. And yet, when I thought about it now, I didn't feel the guilt I thought I would. The anger was still there, sharp and cold, but it was tempered by something else, a kind of clarity. I hadn't started this. She had. The consequences were hers to bear, not mine. Some lines are meant to be crossed. 2 weeks after the press conference, my life had settled into a strange, almost mechanical routine. The media frenzy had calmed, but the storm in my personal life wasn't over. The legal battle was still just beginning, its momentum slowly building. During the day, I worked. I threw myself into the projects I had picked up, installing security systems, doing odd jobs here and there for neighbors who had heard about my work through word of mouth. Business had picked up in unexpected ways, and my hands were rarely idle. But when evening came, I'd head to my parents' house for dinner with my daughters. The noise and laughter of family were a welcome contrast to the cold quiet of the house I now spent my nights in. It was too big, too silent. A place that once felt like home now felt like a museum of what had been, filled with memories I didn't know what to do with. But despite the routine, despite the normalcy of those evenings, I could feel the weight of what had happened, pressing on me every minute I spent alone. Alicia had moved out of the cheap motel she'd been staying at and into a small apartment across town. Margaret suspected that Vince was still funding her, though she hadn't come right out and said it. Alicia had also found a new job, a step down from the high-powered position she had once held, but it was a job nonetheless, a small sign that she was trying to put her life back together piece by piece. But she wasn't going quietly. Her attorney, Bradley Whitman, had been filing motion after motion. Each one was more aggressive than the last. Claims of emotional distress, invasion of privacy, parental alienation. It was obvious he was trying to keep the pressure on, to wear me down, to make the legal battle so expensive and exhausting that I'd just settle, take whatever offer they gave, and move on. "She's desperate," Margaret said one afternoon during one of our weekly strategy meetings. "Whitman's expensive, and someone's paying his bills, but they can't keep this up indefinitely." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the stack of documents on the table between us, the motions, the filings, the endless back and forth. What's the endgame? She wants joint custody and half the marital assets. Whitman thinks if he can make this expensive enough, you'll settle just to make it go away. And if I don't? Then we go to trial, and we let a judge decide. With the evidence we have, I like our chances. I didn't reply at first. It felt like we were playing a game neither of us had chosen, but now we were too far in to back out. There was no going back. I wasn't about to roll over, not when the truth was on my side. But a trial? It would mean more pain, more public exposure, more scrutiny. Alicia wouldn't be the only one hurt by this. We both would be. I couldn't afford to back down, not now. But part of me wondered if this would be the fight that finally broke me. That evening, I was at Mrs. Patterson's house, installing a security upgrade for her. She'd recommended me to a few of her friends, and now business was picking up steadily. I had my hands full with work, trying to keep my mind distracted, and that was exactly how I wanted it. I was just finishing the final touches on the security cameras when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown number. "We need to talk. Meet me at the usual place, tonight." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. The usual place could only mean one thing. I hadn't heard from Alicia directly in weeks, and yet here she was, reaching out. But why? What did she want now? I wiped the sweat from my hands, staring at the phone for a few more seconds, my thoughts swirling. Should I go? Should I listen to whatever she had to say? Or had I already heard enough? With a sigh, I slid my phone back into my pocket. My mind made up. Some questions were better left unanswered, and some meetings were best avoided. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. "We need to talk, tonight. It's important." Alicia. She'd been trying to contact me for days, but the restraining order made direct communication complicated. This was the first message that had gotten through. I ignored it and kept working. 10 minutes later, another text. "It's about the girls, please." That got my attention. I called Margaret. "She's allowed to communicate about the children," Margaret said, "but I'd recommend meeting somewhere public and recording the conversation." "Where?" "The coffee shop on Mockingbird. Public, well-lit, plenty of witnesses." I arrived at the coffee shop to find Alicia already there, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a cup that looked like it had been cold for an hour. She looked up when I walked in, and I was struck by how different she seemed. Thinner, older, worn down by the stress of the last few weeks. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down across from her. "You said it was about the girls." "It is. Partly." She took a sip of her coffee and made a face. "Greg, we need to end this. I'm not the one who started it. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I'm genuinely, deeply sorry. But this has gone too far." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, for the calculated performance I'd learned to recognize, but she just looked tired. "What do you want, Alicia?" "I want to see my daughters. I want to be part of their lives. And I want us to find a way to coexist without destroying each other." "You should have thought about that before you planned your little vacation." She flinched. "That was stupid. Incredibly stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I was angry at you. Angry at our marriage. Angry at my life. I made terrible choices." "You made calculated choices. You planned everything carefully, right down to using our credit cards to pay for it." "You're right. You're absolutely right. I was selfish and cruel, and I treated you terribly. But Greg, what you've done to me, it's destroyed everything. My job, my reputation, my relationships. I've lost everything." "Good." The word came out harsher than I'd intended, but I didn't take it back. She stared at me. Is that really what you want? To destroy me completely? I want you to understand consequences. I want you to know what it feels like to have your life turned upside down by someone you trusted. I understand. Believe me, I understand. But the girls, they're asking about me. Molly, especially. She knows something's wrong, and she blames herself. That hit me where it hurt. Molly, my sharp, perceptive 12-year-old, taking responsibility for her parents' failures. What are you proposing? Supervised visitation. I'll take whatever the court gives me. I just want to see them, to let them know I still love them. And in exchange? I'll stop fighting the divorce. I'll accept whatever settlement you think is fair. I just want this war to end. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. It sounded reasonable, almost too reasonable. Alicia had never given up on anything without a fight. What's the catch? No catch. I'm tired, Greg. I'm broke, I'm alone, and I miss my children. I can't keep fighting a war I've already lost. My phone buzzed with a text from Doug. Emergency. Call me now. I need to take this, I told Alicia, stepping outside. Greg, where are you? Doug's voice was tense. Coffee shop on Mockingbird. Why? Get out of there. Now. Vince is on his way, and he's not coming to talk. What? I've been monitoring his social media. He's been drinking, posting angry stuff about you ruining his life. 20 minutes ago, he posted something about ending this tonight. I think he's planning to confront you. I looked through the coffee shop window at Alicia, still sitting in our booth. Did she know? I don't know. Maybe. Just get out of there. I hung up and walked back inside. Alicia looked up hopefully as I approached. We'll have to continue this conversation later, I said. What? Why? Because your boyfriend is apparently on his way here to end this tonight, and I'd rather not find out what that means. Her face went white. Vince? No, Greg, I wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Set me up? Plan another little surprise for me? I swear to you I had no idea. I haven't talked to Vince in days. I wanted to believe her. The fear in her eyes looked genuine, but I'd been fooled by her before. Come on, I said. We're leaving. Together? Unless you want to explain to Vince why you're here having coffee with your husband. We were halfway to the parking lot when Vince's Lexus, apparently repaired since my little prank with the catfish, pulled into the lot. He got out of the car moving like a man with nothing left to lose, and I could see even from a distance that Doug had been right about the drinking. Alicia? Vince called out when he saw us. What the hell are you doing? Vince, go home, she called back. You're drunk. I'm not drunk enough, he said, walking toward us. Not nearly drunk enough to deal with this mess. He was bigger than me, younger, and clearly looking for a fight. But 15 years of crawling around in attics and basements had kept me in decent shape, and I had something he didn't. Nothing left to lose. Vince, I said calmly, this doesn't have to get ugly. Ugly? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You destroyed my business. You ruined my reputation. You cost me everything. And now you're going to tell me it doesn't have to get ugly? You cost yourself everything when you decided to sleep with my wife. He took a swing at me, telegraphing it so obviously that I had plenty of time to step aside. He stumbled past me off balance, and I grabbed his arm to steady him. Easy there, champ. You don't want to add assault charges to your problems. Let go of me. He jerked away and fell backward into a parked car, setting off its alarm. The sound was ear-piercing in the quiet parking lot. Vince, stop, Alicia was crying now. Just stop. Stop? He struggled to his feet. I lost everything because of him. My license, my business, my reputation, all because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. I never told him anything. Then how did he know? How did he know about the cabin, about our plans, about everything? I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. She didn't tell me, I said. You did, both of you. Every text message, every social media post, every careless conversation in public. You told me everything I needed to know. That's impossible. Is it? You used your real estate license to book the cabin under a fake name? That's fraud, by the way. You used your company credit card to pay for dinners with my wife? That's embezzlement. You posted photos of those dinners on Instagram with location tags. That's evidence? His face was getting redder with each revelation. You had no right. I had every right. She's my wife, was my wife, and you helped her plan to humiliate me in front of my children. The children weren't supposed to know. The children live in the same house I do. You think they wouldn't notice their mother going on vacation with her ex-boyfriend and ex-husband? He looked back and forth between me and Alicia, finally understanding the scope of what they'd planned. This is insane, he muttered. All of this is insane. Yes, I agreed, it is. But you started it. Police sirens were approaching. Someone had called about the disturbance. Vince heard them too and seemed to deflate. "I'm ruined," he said quietly. "Completely ruined." "Yeah," I said. "You are." The police took statements from all of us, but since no actual violence had occurred, they just told Vince to go home and sleep it off. After they left, I found myself alone in the parking lot with Alicia. "I really didn't know he was coming," she said. "I believe you." "Do you?" I looked at her, this woman I'd loved for 14 years, who'd betrayed me so casually, who was now asking for mercy she didn't deserve. "Yeah," I said. "I do." "So what happens now?" "Now you go home to your apartment. I go home to my empty house, and tomorrow our lawyers work out the details of supervised visitation." "And us?" "There is no us, Alicia. There hasn't been for a long time. We just didn't know it." She nodded, tears running down her face. "I really am sorry, Greg. For all of it." "I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix anything." I watched her get into her car and drive away, then stood in the parking lot for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. The affair, the lies, the revenge, the destruction of 2 lives, and the collateral damage to everyone around us. My phone rang. My mother. "Greg, the girls are asking when they can come home." Home. To a house that would never be the same, a family that would never be whole again. Soon, Mom. Very soon. Because whatever else happened, whatever legal battles still lay ahead, whatever awkward custody exchanges and divided holidays awaited us, my daughters deserved to come home, even if home would never mean the same thing again. As I drove through the Dallas suburbs, past the houses where I'd installed security systems, past the lives I'd helped protect, I realized that some things can't be secured. Some threats come from inside, from the people you trust most, from the choices you make when you think nobody's watching. But sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win. Even when winning feels a lot like losing. Even when victory tastes like ashes in your mouth. Even when the only thing left standing is the truth, and the truth is that everything you built together has crumbled to dust. I pulled into my driveway, looked up at the house I'd fought so hard to keep, and realized that keeping it was only half the battle. Now I had to figure out how to live in it.